Good morning, gang. Well, I'm doing a little bit of quick preliminary strip downs here, and as you can see, I just put a chain to hold the intake and exhaust. If you guys aren't built all husky like I am not, that helps. Got everything broke loose there, and these engines are really restrictive because of these bosses here, but there is a trick. It takes an awful lot of honing, but there is a trick to getting all that cleaned up and cleared up. You can see how everything is Siamese. You have 1 and 2 intake Siamese, 3 and 4, or 2 and 3 exhaust Siamese, so on and so forth on down the line. The only ones that are independent of one another are these two. So we're going to try our hand at porting when it comes to that after I get the head off and go through it and make sure it's in good shape. I'll use caution. I don't know that I'm going to tackle the what they do is they use this and then they put a boss down at the bottom, a thumb I think they call it, or something like that, but they all but eliminate this and then put that little thumb down there to help reinforce. I'm not real sure what the process is there, but looking at it, let's get a flashlight here and we will take a look inside the ports and get the camera in a position or we can get a look inside the well, let's just do it this way. It'd be all right. Quite a bit of carbon buildup, but that's to be expected. But not a ton. It's not all that bad. Could be a lot worse, that's for sure. A little bit of carbon getting ready to flake off right here. But, well, my flashlight's on a 30-second timer so I don't run the battery down. Freeze plugs look like they're in good shape. Mating surfaces looked like they were real good on the intake side and on the exhaust side. Looked like it might have been blown out a little bit here, but no big deal. Of course, all that's getting replaced and remedied and whatnot. So, but what the bulk of this video is going to end up being about is we're going to, right now I'm charging the battery up, we're going to be rolling the engine over and seeing how well we're oiling. You guys can hear over the battery charger fan there. Let me get a towel to lay over that fender so that I'm not leaning into it, right? Let me get my flashlight off here so I'm not having to hold my keys. There we go. Alright, give me a towel. Here, let's get one that matches the paint. That work? A light blue one. Ow. You know, I hit my head on those things all the time. You'd think I'd get smart and move them somewhere else, but no. Real quick, you guys are helping make it happen. Slow but sure, but you guys are making it happen. I'm actually up to 21% subscribed. I know that we can do better than that, so if you guys are not subscribed and you watch me on a regular basis, do me a favor, go ahead and hit up that subscribe button and select all notifications. It's absolutely free and you will receive notifications every time I upload a video. So what we're going to be doing is I'll get my jump start on there, I'll pull all the spark plugs out, I'll wrench the carburetor open so that we have little to no restriction, and we're going to try to crank this engine over in a hurry. We're going to look at these. A little bit of oil there, no oil, no oil. But I did have Scott go through and oil everything, so having oil in them right now is kind of it's not realistic. But we look here, that one is just, this is the one that was bone dry to begin with. But the new rocker arm assembly will be here today. It's already in Muncie. Scott has it, and we're just waiting on him to get off work. So I figured before he got off work, we would go through and crank this engine over and see what we've got as far as oiling goes. And if we don't have good oiling there, I'm going to pop that bolt out right there and see if we have good oil coming up through the head bolt. Now, some head bolts do have two holes drilled in them, one straight up the center of the shaft at the threads and one going across. Others just have a narrow shank on the head bolt, and that's the case in this one. It's just a narrow shank. We've not gotten the block numbers to send over to Stove Bolt to see if we are if we're correct in our assumptions. So anyway, let me just go ahead and get the camera set up. I think the battery is charged long enough. We'll get the camera set up and crank this thing over, and hopefully we get a nice, good, steady pool. I wouldn't even mind a geyser coming out of that hole. I'd be all right with that. But we'll crank the engine over a bit to get the oil pressure up and see if we can't get some a good flow of oil coming out of there, because we don't want to destroy this new rocker assembly that's coming. So hang on. Alright, before we roll it over, we're going to throw in a little bit of Sta-Bil fogging oil into each of the cylinders. Into each of the spark plug holes, I should say. Because we don't want to spin this thing over dry, right? Throw a little bit on down here too. Why not? Nothing's going to move up top because there's no rocker arms, obviously. But alright, we are watching right there, that hole right there. That's what we're going to be paying attention to. So let's roll this engine over, and hopefully it won't take too long to be a good bit of oil coming up out of that hole. Ready? Contact. Hang on, I've got rags hitting the fan blade. That's never a good thing. And it just screwed the camera up a little bit. Going again. We should already have oil coming up out of there, right? Do you agree? I agree. There should already be oil coming out of there. And there isn't. So we're going to break that head bolt loose and see if we can get oil to come up that head bolt galley. So let's get that done. Hang on. Alright, I got the head bolt out, and if we look, right there is a little bit of a shoulder and it necks down. I just wiped all the oil off of it, but the end of the threads were pretty oily. I just wonder if the wrong bolt wasn't put in there. That's possible, but we're going to crank it over again, see if we don't get oil coming up out of the head bolt hole, because the oil should come up. We'll crank it again. In 3, 2, 1, contact. Problem. Alright, I'm going to have to dive a little deeper, see what's going on. Now the oil may not come up through that head bolt. We've got to keep that in mind. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to probe that and see if the oil hole is plugged, and if it is, we'll see what we can do to clear it, because I'm sure it'll just fill up with Sta-Bil if I do that. Let's see. Oh, I see it bubbling through here. You see it? See it bubbling through there? It's bubbling over here at that head bolt. Alright. That tells me that we're plugged at the head bolt. Alright. I'm going to go in and do just a little bit of research, see what I have to look for on both variants, one with the hole in the bolt, one without, and see exactly where the oil port is on the head, on this head bolt. So we'll be right back. Alright, I've been messing around a little bit, and look at where that shoulder's at right there. That doesn't clear the oiling hole. That shoulder right there is too long. It blocks the oiling hole. So this cannot be the right head bolt, period. Because let me try to show you as best I can here. Look, I've got a piece of baling wire. Just a little bit of a bend on it. Let me put a little bit more of a bend on there. More prominent bend. Come on. There's always some place where you can stick a wire and bend it. Right there in the crook of the spring. That'll work. Okay. Got that bend in there. I'm going to run this down. You'll see it doesn't go down far at all. Right there. Okay. Now I'll shine the flashlight. You guys try to get a look and see right where that hole is at. There you can see it. Okay. Well, the shank on that bolt. Whoa. Flash rate 60 frames a second. Doesn't like that flashlight. But that distance is longer than that hole is deep. So that is not the right head bolt, regardless of whether it's supposed to have the holes in it or not. The shoulder is way too deep on it. So I'm going to do a little bit further investigating. I've not yet gone to the computer, but we're going to check a couple of other things out. So what I'm going to do is install the bolt just a little bit, thread it down just a little. What I was thinking was, when I was cranking it over, I was probably producing oil, but the oil wasn't able to travel up before gravity fed right back down. So we're gonna turn that in just a little bit like that, so that it's into the threads. So if it is pumping oil, the oil should produce outside the through the shoulder of the bolt and the head itself. So give me just a second to get the camera set up. We'll see if we get some oil that way. I went ahead and pulled one push rod so you guys can watch and see here if we get any oil. So we're going to crank it over again. And I forgot to open the throttle, so no big deal. In 3, 2, 1, let's get some oil up there. Zero. All right, the struggle continues. I'm at a point where I've got to go get on the computer, so I'll take you guys in with me, show you what I find when I do get in there. Hopefully we can do this without having to pull the head. That's my biggest hope, or the gallery cover, either one, because then we're into needing to locate gaskets for this old girl. So stay tuned. Alright, let me tell you where I'm at. That spot right there, that shoulder, is a ½ inch. The size of the hole is plus 250 thousandths. Plenty enough room for oil to get around that bolt. So in looking, I believe it's starting in 1957 or 58 up to 62, the oil galley that allows the oil to come up comes along beside the head bolt inboard or towards the front of the engine, and then comes out, fills the chamber from the shoulder somewhere in here, okay? Comes off, makes a left-hand turn, or comes up the side, makes a turn in towards that head bolt, flows up the head bolt stem into the hole that should eventually feed the oil up out of here. So right now what I'm doing is painstakingly going through with a piece of baling wire, poking and prodding, poking and prodding. I put my bore scope in there. My bore scope didn't reveal anything that really showed me where I'm shooting for as far as where that opening is. So I've been cleaning, I've been getting a lot of junk out, but my only question remains as to where exactly that oil hole is, because I'm dragging the entire edge of that until I pull that up out of there, and I am not feeling an entry point where that oil can come in. I may have to go reference the images again, but I'm going to keep digging around. I keep getting a bunch of junk out of there, but we'll come back to it when I find something more out. Alright, I have been at it for about 2.5 hours. Digging, poking, prodding, digging, poking, prodding, digging, poking, prodding with the baling wire. And I am really hopeful I got things cleared out, because I really don't want to have to run an auxiliary oil line around. So head bolts back in, torque back down to spec. We're going to roll the engine over and see if we finally get oil coming out of that hole. If we don't, I know that the path is clear now. I know it's clear. If we don't have oil coming out, then the oil pump is not producing enough oil pressure. But nothing left to do but do it to it, right? Contact. We're looking right there. And we still have nothing. Now, I might not be able to generate enough oomph to get the oil to come up out without the engine starting. So what I'm going to do now, boy, I wished I could just pull a distributor and run the distributor over, or run the oil pump with a drill. That would be opportune. Do we want to try that? We may try that next. We'll just have to bide our time here a little bit. But right now I'm going to pull the bolt back out and take a look and see if we have a wet bolt. If there's any oil coming up on the shoulder of that bolt, then I know we've got oil coming up, and I'll be happy with that, because that bolt is dry as a bone when I put it in there. So let's break it loose. And by the way, I love that Quinn little torque jobby, for lack of, we call it a torque wrench, but it's not a wrench. Let's get this sucker out of there. There we go. All right. Please be wet. All I need is just some of that shoulder to be wet, and then I'm happy. We are dry as a bone. Well, I guess we're going to have to go ahead and pull the distributor and try to run that run the oil pump fast enough. So let me get this thing rolled over to #1 cylinder, top dead center. We'll pop that distributor out of place. Hang on. All right, distributor is out. Drill with primer on it. Let's spin her over, see if we can get some oil to come up out of that hole. Everybody, wish for me and wish with me. Here we go. I'm gonna start off slow. There we go, some pressure. Look at there. Yeehaw. Came up and then it stopped. Let's let it drain back down. When I let off the drill, I can hear it draining back down, so I still have a clog. Oil did come up, but then it clogged again. So let me work on that. We'll get her. All right, we're going to try again. Only this time we're going to go ahead and set this in place. We're going to see if oil just continually pours out of that. It shouldn't blow it out because the oil's not coming out that high of pressure. I think we may have finally got it. You ready? Let's go. Here, let me turn it around so you guys can see it on the other side, because this side's making it look like it's not putting much out. You ready? There we go. Here we go. Contact. See, that's just barely turning that thing over. I call that a win. Don't you? Lordy, what a fight. It's now, it is 10 till 4. Well, 12 till 4, and Scott gets off at 4 o'clock. We just got this sucker oiling in time. That'll make him happy. It was a long fight to get oil, but he's coming with the new rocker arm assembly. We will heavily lubricate it before firing things off, but now I'm going to set the oil pump back in position to set the distributor back in, get that buttoned up so that we're ready to rock and roll on the top end when he gets here. But I'm not going to pop the camera on while I'm putting everything back together. It's going to take a while. I have to put the rocker arm assembly on and then come through. I'm already on top dead center here, so lash on all cylinders is 0. So I'll get these tightened down till lash is 0. Then we'll go. Somebody explained to me how to remember the firing order, and I believe it's 1-4, 14 is too young, 3-6, 36 is too old, 25, 2-5. But I'll look it up to make sure. It's something along those lines, but I forget exactly. But we'll go through the firing order. So we've got 1 first, obviously, and then whichever one's next, we'll bring to top dead center. We'll just go right on down the road, put everything at 0 flash, and then we'll fire this thing off with the valve cover off, so we can make sure we have good oiling all up and down the entire length of the rocker arm assembly. So yay, we got oil. We'll see you guys at the end of the rainbow. It's for all or nothing, right? We've got everything reassembled and everything's oiled down real good, and we're fixing to do the first start. Well, that sure isn't clattering like it used to, is it? Listen to how quiet. That is just whisper quiet. Right now we're just waiting on oil to start pumping up. Real quiet. Yeah. Not a tick to be heard. Such a happy valve. I don't hear a single tick. Guys, I don't remember if we started this before, but it sounded like a sewing machine. It was rattling something awful. See it? Huh? Right here we've got oil. We've got oil coming between the valves. And pretty soon oil will fill. Boy, that sounds so much better. See, it's spitting oil all over everywhere. Look back here.
Yep.
Yeah, now we can tell that your accelerator pump in your carburetor needs replaced.
Okay.
So it's a good carburetor rebuild kit.
It's in the trunk.
Okay. Yeehaw! Running like a Swiss watch.
Man.
That ought to make the whole happy family. Might have said it backwards, but
I'm elated.
huh?
I am elated. The thing's not.
It's not clattering like a sewing machine, right? And we're on a hill, so gravity's working against us a little bit, but it's doing great. Fantastic. Go ahead and fill it. We'll put the valve cover on, clean the tools up, and go for a ride. So we're in good shape, guys. We're golden. No more ticky-tick-tock. Just like a hydraulic engine should be. Nice and quiet. Where all you can really hear is the whir of the power glide and the whining of the cam gear against the crank gear. That's the way it needs to happen. Plenty of oil pooling. Yeah, looks good. Looks good. Yeah, everything's real wet.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in good shape. Really good shape.
Yeah, you can see it here.
And what we'll do, we'll throw the valve cover on, take it for a little bit of a spirited ride, and then we'll come back, pop the valve cover back off, take a look. Everything should just be soaking wet by then.
Yep.
So, all right, gang.
Good.
We'll be back after the ride.
That's pretty.
We just went for a ride. Let that oil warmed up, and as you guys can now see, we have oil flowing nicely, out of all of it. That's a thing of beauty. See how it's cooling down in there, and it's just running down everywhere, running down like crazy. It's actually pouring off this one. That's what you want. And see how I told you once they started oiling, that oil would wash in and just go right down the push rod. Nice. Nice. Now you can jump up and down. Alright gang, that's going to wrap it. This is not the end of the Bel Air, but the end of the Bel Air for this round. Scott's going to attempt to rebuild the carburetor. Accelerator pump's a little iffy, and if it comes to where he needs a little bit of help, he'll bring it by and we will go through that together. But for now, Friendly Neighborhood Zippo and Scott. See you guys on the next one. Later. I'm out of here.